What's up, guys? Welcome back to the AM. So, today I'm going to talk about one problem at a time. Life gets really hard and complicated when you look at the whole picture and then you're like, oh no, I've got to do these 10,000s of things, right? However, life seems to be simplest when you're really focused on one problem at a time. And it's actually really true to think about because honestly, and even if you're a multitasker, it's actually a myth that you multitask. You actually do efficient task switching. And what that means is this: you actually efficiently switch between tasks where you're actually only able to do one task at a time, in your brain. And so there's no really such thing as multitasking. It's single task focused, and it just is based on how fast you and efficiently switch between those tasks. The point of what I'm saying is this: when you look at life and you're like, oh man, there's 10,000 things that I need to do, it gets really complicated really quick. And then we normally tend to use all that to convince ourselves not to do the thing that we actually really should be doing. And if you back up and pause, it's really, no, let me solve this problem first. Let me solve this problem first. And so Andrew and I have done a huge round of deep work the past month and a half. And it's literally just been one problem at a time. Cool. This is the end goal. Okay. How do we get there? What's the first thing we need to do? Awesome. All right. Now what's the first thing we need to do? Awesome. Now what's the first thing we need to do? Awesome. And we finish it. And each task, if you notice, each problem, what's the first thing we need to do? And then we do it. And then the next step is, what's the first thing we need to do? Always do step one. Step one. It's one thing at a time, one problem at a time, one solution at a time, one small change at a time. And that's honestly how anything in life is done. That's honestly how anything in life is completed. And what is important is the consistency of showing up and doing that. The consistency of showing up to solve the problem one at a time, to solve the problem that's right in front of you, to solve it and then move forward. And where most people mess up in problem solving, because most people are great problem solvers, what happens and where they err and where they go wrong is they don't tie the problem to a goal. They don't tie the problem to objective. They don't get feedback. And then they don't actually assess for what the next problem needs to be. So everything is treated in isolationism. It's like, oh yeah, this is the one thing I need to do. It's like, no, it's life. There's always more than one thing for you to do. Like if you're married, how do you win at marriage? You just solve one problem and then all of a sudden you're the best spouse to exist. It doesn't work like that. It is a constant journey of being confronted with obstacles and then seeing the opportunities in front of you to move forward past them. And that's how anything is built, right? Everybody looks at Apple today and be like, man, I really wish that I could build something like that. Well, Apple didn't arrive exactly how it is today as a $1 trillion company. The way that it started off with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, it didn't start that way. It was built one step at a time. And granted, you have investors and you have teams and they help you build things faster. But guess what they're doing? Solving one problem at a time. They're solving one problem at a time. And then they're faced with the next problem to create a solution for it. And so I think it's really easy to get lost in the hundreds of millions of things that you should do and that have to be done. And then we forget about doing the one thing in front of us. Doing the one thing every day that we need to do to get up. And that's honestly, if you're doing focused work or you're doing like, hey, an intense dive and a lot of work like what I just came out of, that's honestly all you're doing. Okay, cool. Here's where we are. Here's the goal. Here, I've mapped it out. What is the first step we need to do in order to move towards our goal? What does that look like? Oh, it's this. Okay, let's map it out. Okay, boom. Okay, boom. Okay, boom. Oh, wow, this is what we're doing. And then once you solve one problem, guess what automatically appears? The next problem. So if you've ever done work with your hands, if you've ever done any sort of building with your hands, if you've ever done any sort of like just hard labor or manual labor with your hands, this is how it works, right? So it's just one step at a time. In the digital realm, working with computers, working with technology, in the marketing realm, it's more ethereal. It's way more ethereal. And I've talked about this before where you've got different locations where your work is located, right? You got the tangible world where you can work with your hands. And then you have the digital world, right? Which is radically different. You can't touch, smell, or experience any of it other than visually. And so it's very easy to get lost in all of that versus, okay, this is how you think. It's amazing how conceptualism really comes into this, how you conceptualize and think about things. Anyways, guys, though, I'm over. So I'll catch you later. Peace.